Hi there, I'm Tony with Google Codin, and you might remember me from the DragonFly BSD installation screencast. Well, today, I'm going to show you how to set up a vkernel in DragonFly BSD. You may be wondering, what is a vkernel, and how do I use one? Well, never fear, I'm going to answer that for you right now. Just to review, a kernel is the core of an operating system. Now, suppose you have a bug in your kernel. How would you go about debugging the core of your operating system? In practice, it is often a very difficult and time-consuming process, nothing like attaching a debugger to a user space application, which is what vkernels enable you to do. DragonFly BSD's virtual kernels have been designed as a way of running a kernel in userland, so it doesn't affect the operation of a currently running kernel. They have been designed expressly for the purpose of easier kernel debugging, but they are also extremely useful as a means of resource isolation. Think of them as a more heavyweight BSD jail. In short, vkernels are a DragonFly BSD developer's best friend. So, how do we go about actually setting one of these up? First of all, we want to make a directory to house our vkernel in. This could be anywhere, but for the purposes of this talk, I'll be putting a vkernel directory in /var. You might want to put this elsewhere if the size of your root partition is restricted. Next, you want to make an empty root image for your kernel. Just dd a few bytes from 0 into a file name rootimage.01 in /var/vkernel like so. Then use vnconfig to set it up as a block device. You can read more about vnconfig and these other commands in their respective man pages. Now we use disk label to set it up as a BSD partition, then use newfs on the newly created slice. Once it contains a file system, it will be ready to install a vkernel onto once it is mounted. We will also temporarily mount it onto /mnt. Assuming that you have built a world, you can now change your current working directory to your system sources directory and making install world to /mnt using desc-dir. Building world is beyond the scope of this video, but information about this process can be found in the build man page in section 7 of the manual. Change directory again to the etc directory inside this source directory and make distribution to /mnt. This will create a DragonFly BSD skeleton in your virtual disk drive. We should edit the fs tab file to specify a mount point, so just fire up your favorite text editor and throw in these lines. Note that the block device is actually vkd0 is 0a, not vn0 is 0a. Now edit your TTYs file, replacing the console entry like so, and turning off all the other gettys. Now, unmount the disk and unconfigure the VN0 block device. Go back to your system's sources directory to build a kernel, keeping in mind that this will take a while. Make sure to build with the defined no modules with kernel-conf as vkernel and distdir as /var/vkernel. We can now make install kernel to /var/vkernel. Set the vm.vkernel enable variable to 1 to enable vkernel operation using sysctl. This sysctl setting can be made permanent by placing vkernel_enable equals yes in /etc/rc.conf. You may also want to enable networking in your vkernel, so load the iftap kernel module and create a bridge to your current network interface. Finally, you can now boot up your vkernel. Change directory to /var/vkernel and issue this command. Watch the pretty grey and white text come up the screen, and soon you'll be dropped at the login prompt of your brand new vkernel. That's the end of this video. If you need any more help, you can consult the vkernel man page, section 7, or you can always make use of DragonFly BSD's mailing lists and IRC channel at www.dragonflybsd.org/. /mailing lists. Thanks for watching.